Such affectionate acceptance.
Put a chick in it, make her gay.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
They were big. They were hitting hard too, man.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Broaden the areas of participation for women.
That sounds very stylish.
What is my problem? What do you think?
Beat sitting home watching television?
Mana mana. Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy Friday, and thank you for joining me. I know it's kind of a weird time, dinner time, but Charlie's my wonderful guest for this evening. We're trying to get our schedules and everything synced up, so it's really late for her, kind of early evening for me, but we'll kind of get everything going here. And for those of you who might not be here at the start, hopefully you'll catch it on the replay here. But we have a good show for you. Let's get this weekend kicked off. And I think I have something that would be a good little intro here for Charlie's. Let's see, because she's, kind of highbrow literature and everything. So let's throw this here.
Hello, I'm Peter. Where are you from, originally?
Hello. Yeah, I was just thinking, something with books and, educational, highbrow. It kind of seemed to fit.
It would normally, except I'm sitting here in my team's football jumper. So
I just got my Cyber Frog shirt on. So
yeah, I can be highbrow, but I could also be lowbrow. Is lowbrow thing? I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I don't know. If it's not a thing, it should be a thing. So why not, right?
Yeah. Definitely should be.
Let's see. We got a few people here in the chat with us. We got Commie Mark. Let's see. I think he's in your neck of the woods, right?
I stream with him, right? Like he's part of obviously CG UK. He's also real life friends now because we've all met up in the real world. So we're not just internet buddies anymore. It's kind of funny.
Friends. All right, let's see what we have. We have Goody Two Shoes. I don't think I've seen your name before, but welcome. Thank you for joining this evening. We have, is it Daniel? Hey, how's it going? Enrique, chickens in the chat. Yeah, throw those chickens in there. We're not anti-chickens here. We love our poultry, our fowl. So yeah, throw them up.
You could get a t-shirt that says "Smash the Poultryarchy."
Oh my God, I want that. Okay, now it must be done.
It's got to be
Let
done.
it be written or whatever. What does it say? It has been said. Let it be so. Let it be written. Let it be so. We got Robert Romano. Hey, what's going on? Who, me? Yes, you. How's it going? We're doing all right. Let's see. Oh, J Drama. Will Charlie knock me out of second place? I don't know. I think you're already behind the Frog Father, EVS. So
what's this on? What have I missed?
Oh, well, we have Jay was kind enough to kind of churn up a little bit of competition. So I had John Malin on. I had like a certain number of viewers and everything. And then so he came on, and I'm not sure about if there was number fudging or not, but he was saying that he beat John Malin. So he was the reigning champ. And so they had that friendly banter back and forth.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
then Frog Father came on. And so when EVS, Ethan Van Sciver, came on, that really got the numbers up there. So yeah, Jay, I think we need to have you back on sometime soon and see how we can get the tallies going. But yeah, definitely had a really good showing when Jay was on. It was nice to have kind of that conversation with the fans and kind of get a fan perspective, with everything kind of going on. I don't know on your side of the pond how aware you are of some of the drama and all that, the minutia that's kind of taking place. It's unfortunate, but I think you've been in Comicsgate since what, 2018, 2019 as well?
About 2018. My husband Jan's been around since early 2018. and then we went comic shopping. So once a month over here, there's a like a hotel in London that has a massive like foyer part that they have for like a comic market.
Oh, that's cool.
We used to go there once a month, and we started to notice that all anybody was buying was back issues. They weren't buying new stuff. And then we started to notice that this collector's fair, which was really, really good in the past, was starting to just be Funkos. And we started to we sat in a coffee shop, and we were like, what's going on? I was ranting at him. I was like, what is going on? What is going on? And then he was showing me what was going on Twitter and like everything that was developing with comics and people that I'd grown up reading their books and looked at their runs of things. And I was like, oh, well, this is, so that's kind of the introduction to it. And I do kind of feel bad for him, because I feel to an extent like I've come here I've done to Jan what I feel like Gail Simone and the Milkshake Girls did to
Lord.
comics. In the fact that I've come in and I've taken his hobby away because I'm around him. It's not like that. We're not like, I'm not like that behind closed doors, but I was the one that obviously come along and had a book. So it is a bit of a running joke that I feel like I've come along stolen his hobby. And of course we have the whole memes of stealing hobbies, but in all fairness, he does a lot of stuff behind the scenes. He likes doing stuff behind the scenes, and he likes doing his show with Mark and bits and pieces like that over on Mark's channel. So we're in the same sphere, but we like doing very, very different things. So there's zero competition, and of course he helps me with all my book and everything. So
and we're gonna dive into that. But I was gonna ask you too. So were you always a comic book fan, or was that something that Yen brought you into? Or
no. I was always a comic book fan. In fact, when we first started dating, I was massively collecting the Walking Dead comics.
Oh wow.
In the comics. And like I've been looking at, Ethan's been tweeting all this week about watching the show, and I just keep reading these tweets going, why are you bothering? Like when it strayed from the comics, I just stopped, because I was like,
I dipped out.
After that, it just got ridiculous. Some of the storylines in there were just so rubbish. I was like, I'm not even bothering anymore. But
I think that's the problem when a series goes on for too long as well. They kind of, granted, they had the comic to kind of pull from, but after a while, to keep the interest of the viewer, you always have to kind of up that ante a little bit, and then they just the storylines get so out of control, it's ridiculous. But I was one of those. I dabbled in comics when I was younger, but it wasn't my primary interest. I liked video games and Doctor Who, and we could kind of touch on that a little bit. That was my geekdom back then, was watching the old reruns of Doctor Who on PBS and everything. But I would read a little bit. My mom had some old issues that she kind of collected over the years, and they had dwindled down from her moving. But I've mentioned the story before that she loved science fiction novels. And so she would go to this old bookstore that I didn't grow up in the best neighborhood in the world, but I grew up in Daytona Beach. And there, within kind of walking distance, there was this adult bookstore, but that it sold like regular books as well. And so my mom would go there for the used science fiction books, and I would go with her, and she had a little old comic spinner rack, and I would go through and look at the old issues of The Flash and Batman and Superman and everything. And then I kind of got into the Marvel side by watching the 90s Marvel cartoon. I don't know if you remember that. But that was a lot of fun. But the comics weren't really my thing, but I kind of had, I guess, maybe a similar experience. I kind of noticed that Enrique's like, science fiction. No, she read science fiction. Darn it. My mom was a wholesome woman. But no, we, let's see, where was I going? Oh, I just kind of noticed that things were getting a little bit weird, but I couldn't quite put my finger on the pulse of it. It's kind of like you feel the just strangeness, but you haven't really been hit in the face with it yet. And then I just kind of went down the rabbit hole online, finding Captain Cummings and your boy Zach, and then EVS. So I've kind of been following that, the drama since 2018. So yeah, things kind of you have the good times, and then you have kind of the rough times, but then things ultimately end up settling down. And we've had people leave, and some people kind of leave and then return a little bit. But I think the analogy of Comicsgate being kind of like this train where you can kind of hop off and on is a pretty good analogy that Ethan has provided.
Yeah, and I think that's been a problem that a lot of people have had. They haven't understood that. Like there's been this nuclear option with so many people that they can't just go away for a little bit and then come back and understand that people will still be here, you will still be here. It's like I've been, because I've had so much going on with my job in the real world, and because of making sure we get everything done with the book and all sorts of other things, I've been very quiet with like streaming and the social side of it. But I've always made sure that I at least tweet once a day. I do my updates for my book so people know that I'm still here. Because the problem is, so many people have gone like this in the past, where they've just gone, that's it, I'm out of here.
Radio silent.
That people will, people might think, oh, has she gone anti, or has she gone like off of us? Or no, I'm just doing what you guys want me to do. I'm trying to get my book out, which is, and I will, I know that this is another thing that causes some like conversation, and I think it's healthy conversation. There's a real debate on whether, if you're desperately trying to get your book out or your book's late or whatever, you shouldn't be streaming all the time because you should be getting your book out. And then other people say, no, you should be around because you should let people know that you're still here and you're not going radio silent.
Right.
So I think to a lot of extent, people can't really win. So I try to keep in the middle where people will see me around, but they'll still understand why maybe I'm not on these things so much.
Right. It's a bit of a tightrope walk, isn't it? I don't even have a solution or anything as a, just the customer. I really kind of feel for you creators, especially if you're doing the whole thing yourself, for the individuals that are, doing the drawing and everything and the writing and trying to communicate with the printers and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that has to just really, and maintain a day job on top of that. I don't know how people find the time in the day to do it.
Well, to be honest with you, I do sit here sometimes and go, I don't know how. I mean, I was massively over ambitious with my first book, because when I look back at what people got in that package, I was nuts. I was totally nuts, because you got your regular book, then you got I also managed to get William Crawford Hazel, who makes Elsa Dark, to make me a sub book, which was the friendship between Charlie and Stan Laurel, which was 24 pages, which most people bring out on their campaigns for a first book is a 24-page book. Then I gave away a stretch goal supplement of the whole book again as a silent version. Then I had Statistical Zero drawing bits and pieces. So when I look at what I brought out, I don't know how I was able to do it at all. But I seem to have done.
I can't get this thing the way I want it. Dang it.
Do not worry. There we go.
Okay. Well, at least it's big. That'll work. I'll embiggen it. So tell us a little bit, for those who might not be aware, how in the world, or what is your connection to Charlie Chaplin? What first got you into, I guess, your kind of self-proclaimed or professed obsession with Charlie Chaplin?
It's funny, because whenever people say obsession, it always brings up negative connotations. But the irony is with this is that it's not brought up a single negative thing for me. So It's been quite nice. So I started to look at family history and found out that my great uncle was in the same workhouse in London as he was at about the same time. Well, it was the same time as 1895. There's a photo of them actually sitting a couple of rows away from each other. And it started to get me thinking, is something about his humor very London centric to where he was brought up? So I started to look at what makes, the working class humor he had. And I started to analyze his films, and I started to blog about the different places in London that still exist that are to do with his films. And that's where Charlie's London comes from, because it's literally Charlie's London, the parts in London that are still connected to Charlie Chaplin.
Right.
And And then I realized quite quickly that if you wanted to really excel in understanding this man, there's 2 books you read. There's his autobiography, and then there is a book by a man called David Robinson called Chaplin, His Life and Art. The problem is Chaplin's book is relatively normal size. It's about 300 pages. He leaves a lot out. It's quite telling how much he leaves out. He doesn't, interestingly though, you first read it and think, he leaves it stuff out because he's being egotistical. He doesn't speak about Buster Keaton. He doesn't talk about his leading cameraman. He doesn't talk about his relationship with his second wife very much, stuff like that. And you think, oh, it's because he's his ego. He doesn't want anyone to know how good Buster Keaton was, or he doesn't want to know that his cameraman did all the trick shots and whatever. It's not. It's actually because he wrote his autobiography at the height of the Red Scare.
Oh, so yeah.
He actually was not including these people because he didn't want to drag them into all the mess that he was going through.
That was very thoughtful of him. Yeah, oh my gosh.
It was for someone who people considered to have an ego, because he had, for the things he pushed forward. It's really, it's mental. But so I just started looking at these books and I went, you know what? There needs to be something in between these 2 books. There needs to be his story told in a way that hasn't been done before. Now, there's been comic books done about him before, but there's a children's. They're both licensed. No, she lies. One is licensed by the estate. It's a children's comic book. The other one is not licensed by the estate, and it's on Kickstarter. And Kickstarter won't remove it for some reason, even though the Chaplin family have said, this is not our book. They will not release it. So
that's crazy.
It's something to do with the way the story's gone. But at the end of the day, this person has built their bridges, because they will never be able to advertise it on any of the silent film festivals like I can go to. They don't get to do stuff for the Chaplin estate like I get to.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how did you, I guess, first kind of develop that that relationship, that friendship with the Chaplin estate? Did that just come through your interest in going all to these different events that you've gone to?
Yeah, kind of. So I went to a festival in England called Slapstick Festival, and loads of people told me to go there because it was the best silent film festival that there was in the UK. So I went there and I actually got to meet David Robinson, who was the biographer I was telling you about. And I was asking him questions and he said to me, "You're actually asking me really astute questions that no one's asked me before about things to do with him growing up." And I said, because I'm convinced that his background is what has actually created the comic that he was. And he said, that's probably why no one's asked me these things, because I've never met a historian interested in Chaplin that grew up where he grew up. So therefore, people are not going to be able to see through those eyes because they haven't seen those things. And the more I was learning about my own family growing up in South London, the more I was learning about how it was weird. I started to understand things about my own background and my own heritage through understanding what he saw as a child. So there's a very old-fashioned English saying. I don't know if it's an American saying. If it isn't, I'll have to explain it to you. If it is, you know what I mean. Okay. There's an old English saying when you're really poor called I haven't got a pot to piss in.
Yes, yeah.
And
because they used to have a bedchamber pot that they would relieve themselves in and then throw it in the streets. I guess the next morning.
But if they were really poor, I mean, like really poor, they didn't only do that in it; they had to wash it out and wash in it as well.
Oh my god!
And if you was so poor you didn't even have something to do that, you were really poor. So when he actually alluded to that was the situation in his life, you kind of it's mental when you actually like read these things about and the way that these like people were growing up. And also what Mark said there, I don't know if that's something that happened in the States, but you would also collect your
urine
to give to the local leather merchant, so that they would use that to actually restore and treat the leather, and you'd sell it. So the fact that you didn't have it meant that you had no. I mean, the things, it's incredible the things you learn about being working class. I mean, I found out that you know, the saying to be straight-laced and to be loose, it comes from the connotation of
course.
a woman's corset. Yeah, and it's
Wow. Yeah.
because if you were a loose woman and you didn't wear one, the insinuation was that you was a prostitute. If you was tight-laced, you had a tight. So, and if you were wound up tight, it's all the same. It's all connected to these sorts of things, and it's the background is very, very working class. So it just made me really interested, and then I started to break down why he fell out with people who he'd
Got a little bit of a lag there,
and it was largely to do. Oh, we're back. Oh, yeah. It was largely to do with the fact that what we consider to the left and the right in the UK and America are they're even though they're still left and right, they're skewed. Like, for example, our left is not really that left. It's like centre left, and our right is like centre right. But even our left wing in the height of the Cold War was still way too left for like our American cousins to really understand. So when we were getting like socialized healthcare and medicine, and we were getting socialized housing, and we had a Labour government, and it was all about the same time of, you know, the Iron Curtain and all this stuff, and
the Red Scare and everything over here.
You know, there was a time when American politics thought we were going to end up siding with the communists because of these things we were bringing in. And I think the problem was Chaplin was really proud of the fact that England now had a system where children were no longer malnourished because they could get free healthcare from the state. And I think it was all too much for some people who were still so burnt by what happened in the Second World War. And he didn't understand that. And if he did understand that, he was too stubborn with it. So he caused a lot of problems for himself, is my honest opinion. But so I started getting really, like, the family would sanction me to do things. So I'd go on to do talks, and I'd, you know, because I'd be seeing it from a very different perspective. I did a whole series of lectures on the women in his films and how they all replicate his mum, like not in a Freudian weird way, but he was telling her story to a world that didn't know who she was. I mean,
and she was a performer, and that's touched upon in the first book too. Before we touch on that, I wanted to answer Q Revere's question. He's been so patient, commenting on the book. It's beautiful listening to Trump while looking here and on Indiegogo. Too beautiful. Is it hand drawn?
Well, yeah, Mickey, my artist, it is all digital, but he has drawn it all. He's also been allowed permission from the estate to actually use some of the film cells integrated in with his artwork.
That was one of the things I wanted to point out here.
Because we have permission to do it, which is and also they allowed him to actually, like, you know, sketch by sketch images to make them close to Chaplin, because they actually said to me, the only thing we're going to stipulate is please don't make him look like Adolf Hitler, other than when you need him to look like Adolf Hitler.
And isn't that so funny? He had the look way before, you know, big Mr. Mustache. But yeah, everyone associates that look with Hitler, unfortunately.
He did have it before. Yeah. So I think Hitler adopted it in 1920, and Chaplin had it from like 1914, 1913, even earlier, I think. But
he was saying, and it was interesting, he wanted to make himself look older, but he didn't want to have a full, you know, mustache or beard or anything, because he wanted people to be able to see his expressions, his facial expressions. And I thought that was very insightful. But again, you were going to touch on his mom and how she was a performer.
Yeah, Hannah's very interesting, because Hannah is very much swept to the side, but she's the most integral cog in all of this, because Hannah is the epitome of a fallen woman in a time when the stigma of the things that she went through was so rife that, I mean, when many women threw themselves off bridges, were going through the things that she went through, and she essentially she was a performer, but she suffered terribly with nerves, because Charlie had an older brother, Sydney. Sydney was with her first husband. He had just left her one day, and unfortunately they were all music hall performers, so they were very volatile. There was a lot of drink involved. There was a lot of high emotions, artistic temperament.
Oh yeah.
He just left one day, She met Charles Chaplin Senior, who was I think he was very much the love of her life. They had a very on again, off again relationship, and he went to America, and I think she thought he wasn't coming back. She'd already had Charlie by this point, and I think she thought he wasn't coming back because she started a relationship with another musical star called Leo Dryden. And Leo Dryden, she has a child with Leo Dryden, a baby called Wheeler Dryden. And she thinks that she's going to have a relationship with this man and everything. And she starts building up her confidence again to be a performer. And then one day he just comes round and he just literally snatches the baby out of her arms.
Yes.
And she doesn't see him again till he's an adult. And that is very true. He did steal it.
That's crazy that they could do that back then. You know, I mean, these days we have the courts and everything to try to ensure that, you know, both parents have equal rights and custody and everything for the benefit of the child. But back then, that they could just come and then separate the siblings like that too. It's just, oh my God.
Oh, it gets worse. I mean, Hannah was lucky in some respects that there are cases of women in that time who so a man would marry a woman because there was an estate involved. Maybe her family were rich.
Yeah.
And if he got bored with her, but divorce wasn't the easiest option, sometimes they would actually go to a court and say that she was mentally deranged, and they would not only do that, they would have like false lobotomies performed on these women, put them in mental institutions, and you know, 9 times out of 10, all that they were suffering with was really bad PMT every month. So it was their emotions from that, but the men were using that as a way to get the kids, get the money, get the big house, marry their mistress, and the wife was sitting drooling in a mental institution in London somewhere, and that was it. And but Hannah, so she loses this baby and she goes to try to start performing again, but she suffers with bouts of mutism because of her nerves, and she's on stage and this happens, and Charlie sort of, because he's been watching his mum, he mimics her on stage and he starts getting all this money thrown at him and he gets a real taste for it.
Yes.
But he just gives it all to her. Like he goes, this is for you, mum. And she would have bouts of depression. And then she developed, and this is where I think sometimes historians are not kind to her. She develops neurosyphilis. Ooh. And syphilis is something that is always normally associated. People say it's a sexually transmitted disease. Syphilis is not only a sexually transmitted disease, it's a fluid transmitted disease. Nurses in hospitals, when they weren't very clean back in the Victorian times, used to get it because it's in bodily fluid. You just have a cut. So we don't know actually how Hannah got it. However, I wouldn't be surprised, knowing what I know about the situation with Victorian women. It wouldn't surprise me if when her children were starving and there was no healthcare, socialised medicine, nothing, no welfare state, that
she sold her body, you think?
Yeah. And you know what? I think there's a line in From Hell.
Great story, by the way.
Yeah, when it says about it'll be no worse than what happens to her in Whitechapel when she sprouts teats. Women sold the only thing to them that was free. And I do believe that could have happened with Hannah. Right. Could have also been the places they were living were not great. They were not great. But she knows she's got a mental health problem. This is where I think she's fascinating. She did what even a lot of people now can't do. She actually admitted she had a problem. She took herself with her children to a workhouse, handed them in and said, I can't look after them and I don't want them on the street. And she handed them in to a boys' home so that they would be looked after, because she knew that when
the ultimate sacrifice. I mean,
and she went into a workhouse as well, where women were not treated very well. 1 in 3 women were sexually assaulted in a workhouse. So, you know, she knew what she was doing, and she knew. And if you read Chaplin's autobiography, he almost alludes to the fact that one of the schoolmasters in the workhouse had inappropriate reactions to him, and his brother Sidney he says his brother Sidney like punched him in the nose and didn't like him being and you almost read that Sidney could see that there was some element of grooming going on, and he pulled his brother away from this situation. Because if you look at pictures of Charlie when he was a little boy, he was a very beautiful little boy. So it's just the whole situation is horrible. But Hannah does that, and she has bouts of psychosis for the rest of her life, to the fact that she does go mad. And in the end, they take her to America, and she dies in America with them in the 1920s. And I think that her story, I think he never felt her story was really he never felt that her story was told properly, you know. Right. And I think he always felt that she was the hero in her own tragedy, and he wanted the hero in all of his films to be her, because in The Great Dictator, the people always listen to the speech, but they never get to the end where it goes, "Look up, Hannah." He calls Paulette Goddard's character Hannah. It's obviously meant to be his mum. So it's so fascinating. He is incredibly fascinating.
That's what I really liked about your book too, was it did a very good job, in my opinion, of touching on all the important influences in his life. And book one is, just kind of is him reflecting on everything that brought him to this point, because he's heading back to England for it's the debut of Limelight, right? And so he's going back for the premiere of that over in London, and he's just kind of reflecting on everything that brought him to this point and all of the influences in his life. And I think you did really well with this book in capturing all of that.
Oh, thank you.
And I, to be frank, when I first saw you promoting this on Ethan's Comicsgate live streams, I was a bit skeptical at first, because you don't really think, the first thing you think of with comics is, not exactly a historical story. But I decided to take a chance on it, and I'm so glad that I did. I was very impressed. It was very entertaining, very well written. It's not like a verbose, kind of read. It just gives you the details that are important, and you go through it so quickly. But you feel like you learn so much about this man that many people aren't aware of. They just think he's just some goofy guy, called the Tramp with, the weird mustache.
Yeah.
But just a very fascinating individual. I would say both Charlie Chaplin and Charlie's London. Just kind of hearing how, you stumbled upon this, and your theory too. You hear a lot about the English humor. And especially, over in the States, it's like a lot of people don't really get the British humor. I grew up with it. Again, watching Doctor Who, I grew up watching a lot of PBS. So I saw a lot of the British comedies that they would show on there. They would show Faulty Towers and To the Manor Born and Are You Being Served? That was one of my favorites. I loved Are You Being Served? But even though I didn't understand a lot of the lingo, there was just sort of this universal quality to it. There's certain things that just kind of transcend any culture barrier. And I don't know if the same thing is happening to comedy over in the UK as it is over here, where it's like people are sort of so afraid to offend that, we're kind of losing comedy.
There's a funny dynamic going over here. I mean, I know Mark's in the chat, maybe he can give a little bit more of an insight in this in the chat, but there are classic TV shows over here that never really made the States really, but were really, really great British shows. Things that I can put on anytime and I will laugh at them. There's a television show called Only Fools and Horses, which is about two brothers and their grandfather in a South London tower block, and the silly things they get up to. And if somebody watched it that wasn't British, they would think it was just crazy. But thank you. I love it. It's one of my favorite shows ever. Absolutely Fabulous is the other one.
God, I love Absolutely Fabulous. They are just so crazy.
When I was at uni and I was working in a department store in London, Selfridges, you really met women like that, and that was what, and it was just so funny. Love that. I mean, it's one of my favorite things ever. And The In-Betweeners is another one that is mental. And
Little Britain, I fell in love with. I liked that.
Well, there's a funny thing going on, because you get the woke brigade over here that want these shows removed off TV. They're outdated. They're this, that. The kickback when they try to do this, even from the most woke people, but who grew up watching these shows, like, no. I will be like, I will be a liberal, anti-leaving the European Union. I will be this. I will be a vegan, but don't you dare touch my Absolutely Fabulous. There's a weird, it's a strange dynamic. Modern day comedy, not so brilliant. I mean, I don't watch a lot of it because I find it just not great. And that's not only British, it's American. Everyone was telling to me, I know it's finished now, but everyone was saying to me, oh, you never watched The Big Bang Theory, but you loved Friends. Watch The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, I never got into that.
And I'll be honest, the more I watched it, the more I got annoyed that they were just ripping off Friends, but making them nerds. Like, I just felt, if you're going to watch any of them, watch Friends. And if you think, if you want to go back further, you've got
Watch Coupling.
And, like, seriously, there are so many better ones than The Big Bang Theory. I'm probably going to get totally nuked for saying that, but I just
not for me, at least.
I don't know if you might not be able to see it. Hang on, I'm going to show it. If you look over here, just there, I've got Central Perk made out of Lego, and there is the Friends Apartments made out of Lego.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my God. So, was that a kit, or did you just have to kind of model that yourself?
No, they're kits. They're actually made by Lego, and they took me forever to put together. I'm not even lying. One of them took me like 12 hours to put together. It was over Christmas, and I just went, right, I'm on school holidays. I'm going to just put on Friends and play and build this Lego figure. And that's what I did. So yeah, just
have it playing in the background. But yeah, I think the last British comedy I watched was Little Britain, and I did really like that one. But yeah, the stuff, they couldn't get away with that now. The guys wearing the dresses and saying, "I'm a lady, I wear lady things," in the fat suits, and
they couldn't. No, they couldn't. They couldn't. I've only ever met one American that's seen the following films I'm going to talk to you about, and that was Dan Fragger. And that's because Dan Fragger did a lot of stuff with Ricky Gervais, and he knows a lot about British humor.
Oh wow!
There's a set of films called the Carry On films. They are my favorite films of all time, because imagine Scary Movie, but you're doing it of every genre, like sci-fi and spy movies and romance films and history films, and they all start with the title Carry On. So there's one that makes fun of like all the Tudor period dramas called Carry On Henry, and so it's about Henry VIII. You've got Carry On, I think Carry On Up the Khyber's meant to be making fun of the film Zulu. Then you've got Carry On Cleo, which is meant to be making fun of Cleopatra, the big epic film. They are incredible, and the silly jokes in them, they are so British, they are so full of innuendos. They are just insane, and they are brilliant. And they literally are and Dad's Army as well. DJ Gravy Mix has put Dad's Army is incredible, but you could go on. And they all.
I have to get like an old list. I'm probably going to have to acquire them somehow.
They're all slapstick. They're all find their origins in slapstick comedy. So it's no surprise I love them so much.
Yeah, Father Ted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was all great stuff here. Oh, please. Shame on you. Yes, Red Dwarf. That was another one I watched.
God, yeah.
Yeah, when Doctor Who was still good, and Red Dwarf was on. There was some good times right there. Actually, there was this convention that they used to hold in Chicago every year around our Thanksgiving time. So they did a big thing for the 30th anniversary back in '93, and I went there for that and saw like the classic Doctors. They had Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, and they brought in Sophie Aldred and all that. So I'm just like all starstruck because I'm like still, you know, kind of a young kid. I'm like, oh my God, yeah. But yeah, I'm a pretty big nerd, I guess. I loved it. But what they're doing now to Doctor Who just seems like a damn shame. I haven't watched it since Jodie Whittaker. I was starting to fall off with some of the Capaldi stories, although I love Peter Capaldi, but the some of the stories I thought were just a little bit weak. He did the best with, you know, with what he had. But when they went to Jodie Whittaker, and it wasn't because she was a female, it was just because everything felt so forced and the stories just kind of went off on a completely different direction.
The scripts are really badly written as well.
Yeah.
From my understanding, the scripts are awful, which is surprising because I think most of the team responsible for that are the same team that made Sherlock. And Sherlock was incredible.
I love Sherlock. Yeah, that was a great show, Cumberbatch. And that propelled his career big time, didn't it?
It was so clever. I mean, it was really stylish. It incorporated the original Conan Doyle stories so well. But it was, my God, past Master Dan, love Young Ones. The Young Ones is another one. It's that's another show. That's another one that when you watch it, you're just going to feel like you're tripping balls in an English club because it's just crazy. Like there's no explanation for the Young Ones. But the ultimate is, of course, I mean, I don't know if you guys get it over there. Blackadder. Look up Blackadder.
Yes, I love Rowan Atkinson. He is incredible. Would you say, and I don't want to step on Chaplin's toes or anything, but would you say that Atkinson is maybe our current era Chaplin in a way, just in the sense of what he could do with, you know, his physical comedy and everything?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, while I also think that he's the biggest rip-off merchant in the world with Mr. Bean, he literally took Mr. Bean, and you know, he pretty much took the Tramp and then just made it this character of Mr. Bean. I also think he's incredibly clever, and I also think that he can do with his face what Chaplin used to do, and actually brings nicely back to the point I was going to make to you before when you said about how you was a bit cynical about my book. You weren't the only one, and many people were like, why is this even here doing this? And the best example that I could have given, going back to the comedy aspect, is that, you know, silent films and comics are silent imagery of a story.
Right.
A comic and a silent film they're not dissimilar. You have intertitles, you have speech bubbles, and you have directions. So to make a comic of his life fitted in perfectly with what he was. Equally, he was cancelled so many times in his career. If he is not the story of cancel culture and misinterpretation, I don't know what is. This book deserves to be here more than maybe, you know, people would probably think it was. So it's quite
it was terrific too. And let's see, it does end on a bit of a cliffhanger when he's about to go in and you know, meet everyone in the theater and everything. So you get that like nice little ending there where they're closing the doors to start the premiere. But how many issues of the book will we have, I guess, to tell his whole story? Let me minimize this again.
There will be 3. So there is From East Lane to the Limelight. The current one is From Woolworth to Wartime. So it takes you up to the making of the Great Dictator. And the next one will be, the last part will be From Verdu to Vevey. So it goes the last book's going to be going into pretty much bringing it full circle to the point when he comes to America. So essentially the end is going to be, the end of the 3rd book is going to be the beginning of the 1st book. That's how it's going to go. So it's it's a kind of weird timeline, but I knew what I wanted to do when I did the original book. And I also was aware that maybe people wouldn't get what I was trying to do. So what I did was I went, okay, I'm going to bring this out as a semi-standalone story. And if it doesn't get the funding I want, or it doesn't get the, you know, the support I want, I'll just end it at book 1, and it's a nice contained story because it ends with the making of the kid, and he's all triumphant and he's established himself as this artist. If it does get the funding, it's also a very nice plot point to take the book on to book 2, where I really want to take it. So that's what's going on here. So it's again been very well received. And again, goes back to what I was saying to you. I've we sat down, my artist and I, and said, we can't tell this story in the 64 pages that we promised. We really couldn't. So the original deadline of July last year, we actually stopped and went, we're not going to be able to meet it if we're going to have this book as perfect as we want it.
Right.
So we sent an update out to the backers. Everyone, and I mean everyone, was super supportive, because we turned around and said, you know what, it's going to take maybe another 6 months, but we're adding 30. We're going to add 30 pages.
Yeah. So all you're asking is for us to be a little more patient, and we're getting a lot more bang per buck, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, the average comic book in CG is 28 pages, right? So everybody's getting essentially another book in the book. So and everyone's been super, because they know the standard I've set for myself with the first one. They know it's not going to be any different for the second. So I can tell you every single page that Mickey has turned in since we made sorry, Mark said it's 48 page average. I thought not 28. Oh, yeah. My apologies. Yeah. Is the commie in the chat trying to tell me I'm 18 pages behind? Well, I'm not extending it any longer. I don't want to make these poor people wait any longer by finding another 18 pages.
Oh no. Everyone's a critic. Come on now.
Everyone.
That is true. Spike and madness. It is, and I can guarantee you that this the book is just very, very top notch quality here. So definitely
the biggest
worth.
Compliment I think I got when I brought out the first one, right? And to me, I mean, I've had so many amazing people give me massive compliments for it, and I will always be so thankful. But the one that sticks out in my head, I've always loved Billy Tucci, right back to the She days. And Billy has been a massive advocate on this book. He is a massive Chaplin fan. He has been a supporter from day one. We support the same football team, which is another amazing thing we can share. And
who is your team, real quick?
Arsenal. Arsenal Football Club. Why? Who do you? Are you going to upset me now?
Probably. I kind of stumbled upon West Ham United, and I had a chance to see a game there, and I loved them.
So oh my God, that's who we've got this weekend.
No! Oh my God, no.
Yeah,
so I'm going to have to be singing Forever Blowing Bubbles over here.
Oh, do you know what? This idea of doing a regular stream might not actually come to fruition after.
No. Peace in our time. Come on, I'll wave the white backward.
I will give you it's a London club. We will be fine.
Okay.
So he said to me one day, he saw that he got his hands on the first book, and he actually said to me, "Are you sure you've not done this before? Because of the way this book looks." And I was so professional. I was so super happy that someone like him, who, let's face it, if you've ever got one of his books, he knows what he's doing. And
he is a rock star. I mean, absolutely. He knows the business inside and out, for sure.
Yeah. The way that they get those books out, they're like machines. They are incredible. And the fact that he turned and said to me, "Are you sure you've never done this before?" I was like, right, that's my little, that's my little CG Oscar, if you like. I've got it. I've done it. That's my Grammy or whatever. So I was blown away by that. And like I say, there's all this conversation about, late books and whatever, but I could have brought it out the date that I promised bringing it out, but I wouldn't have been happy with it. And if I'm not happy with it, I don't think it's good enough to be in the hands of people that have paid me a lot of money. Yeah. So, so I'm quite happy with that. I'm super happy with what's come out. I'm super happy with what Mickey's done. I cannot fault the work that he has put in for me. Is incredible. And I've been sharing pictures there's been pictures on Twitter. I've shared stuff on my updates. I mean, some of the things he's done to do with the speech from the great dictator. And the way that he's put these pictures from the film and interlaced them with pictures from actual images from the Second World War is just insane, the way he's done it. So I'm just, it's an absolute passion. And this story, book 2, is much more meaty than book 1 in the what has to be covered. And there's a lot of controversy in certain parts of his life with book 2. You encounter his marriages and his divorces and the scandal with that. And I had this is why I say working with the Chaplin estate has been a dream. I had one very simple instruction from them. Do not shy away from telling things as hard as they are, but just tell the truth.
Right.
So I told exactly the truth, and I've been to the Chaplin archives many a time, and I have seen the things that happened to him and the lies that were told about him and the way that they tried to blacklist him, and I told the black and white truth, and that will be seen when people get the book. He made stupid decisions. I think at times he was too proud to admit they were silly decisions.
That's a fault of a lot of us. It is really hard to admit when we've made a mistake, so.
And rather than actually admitting to the American government that the reason he never wanted to be an American citizen had nothing to do with being a communist and had nothing to do with not loving that country, the actual reason is because if he got rid of his British passport, he could never be made a peer of the realm. And he wanted to be a peer of the realm. He wanted to be a sir. He wanted to be up there with people he considered he was now equal to. And if he did that, he couldn't get it. So rather than saying to the presidents at the time, Mr. President, if I become a citizen of the United States, I will never be Sir Charlie Chaplin. He didn't. He swerved the conversation, which led people to actually think there was something else going on. And that's what I honestly believe. Oh, you've got the Peter Gilmore cover. Yeah, I love. Peter's got this amazing way of drawing Chaplin getting destroyed by animals. It's just brilliant. He's done this one and he did the pigeons with the first one. And we actually ended up we actually ended up having the cover that he did for book 1, the little tiny version. We ended up coloring it as a full scale. Yep. So this one, this was the little silent version.
Yes, I got the package that included that, the little silent version.
Yeah. So we decided to take, everybody said to me, this cover's incredible. We love it. We love what Peter Gilmore's done. So Peter Gilmore went back and he colored it, and we've made it the actual second printing for book 1. So people can get the Peter Gilmore bundle where they get his new cover for book 1 and his new cover for book 2.
Do you have any, for people who are just getting into, or maybe just discovering this book, which one of the tiers is the one that could kind of catch them up on the story so far? So I guess, would it be a reprint of book 1, or could you still get an original copy of book 1?
We've only got on the campaign the reprints of book 1.
Okay.
And the only thing I'm going to say,
second edition.
So the only thing I'm going to say, because I made it as fair to my original backers as possible. One thing I do get complimented on a lot is how professional I am with this. So I'm really super, super happy for that. Is I can't get my words out. Statistical Zero's add-on, the Tramp Tales in the first book, was an add-on for everybody that got it to the goal that it needed to be. So unfortunately, for the second printing of book 1, Tramp Tales is not in it because it doesn't qualify in this because it's not in a stretch goal. So
that was included at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Tramp Tales. I love the art and everything in that too. And then the little dog. What was his name again?
Buster. There's a funny story with Buster. Buster was a happy accident. And what I mean by that is that essentially it was originally going to be Jackie Coogan. So it's going to be the kid. And we had a whole series of little lovely stories about the kid. The problem was I got a phone call from the Chaplin estate and they went, we don't like to interfere because you're doing a super amazing job. And I said, yeah. They went, there's a problem with using the kid. And I went, oh. And they said, we don't mind you using the kid for talking about the film, but we've just licensed out the kid, the image and the rights to use it for the next 18 months to the French Postal Service.
Oh, wow.
So they might not be very happy about you having these little stories in your book. I went, oh, okay. So I said, is there a preference on what I need to do? They went, you can create another character. That's not a problem, but you just can't have the kid unless you're happy to put the book off by a year. And I was like, well, no, can't do that. So went back to Stato and he said, what about a dog? I said, draw something, tell me what you think. So anyway, he came back to me a couple of days later. He'd drawn this dog and he said, we're going to call it Buster, like a little homage to Buster Keaton.
Buster Keaton, yeah.
And it took on its own life. I mean, literally, people have loved it. There's even, you can get a little figure on the campaign for book 2 of Buster.
Let me bring that up again too.
And they are they're 3D printed. One of the guys in CG UK is making them and he's hand painting them. Like you can either have them in gold or silver, or you can have them plain so you can paint them yourself. And and it's just turning. He's Stato's already sent me his part of the book, and his art has so much. I mean, I know I'm saying, oh, it's so much improved from book 1, making it sound like the book one wasn't good. That's not what I'm saying. It's just he's upped his game. It's incredible what he's actually done for book 2, for these Tramp Tales. They are absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
There we go. I wasn't sharing. Sorry, guys. Here's the figure here. Now, the figure, is it just the one with Charlie and Buster, or was there a Buster one by itself?
No, it's just the Charlie and Buster one. Yeah.
Now, might we in the future have a possibility of Buster by himself?
Yes, there's no reason. I mean, technically I own the character now, even though I can't really do anything of him without Charlie. But it's they're so amazing with me, the Chaplins. It's like
sorry.
I'm reaching my limit of listening to a woman say, oh,
I know,
right? It's like I haven't really. I've stayed super away from all the drama stuff. No wonder Mark is here. It's like some kind of communist.
Love you too, Java.
Yeah. So I kind of stayed, like I said, I've stayed away from all this drama stuff because I just, one, I've been too busy, and 2, I think there are people handling it and way more involved than me that can pass a good opinion on it. But I do think that sometimes we need to be we don't need to sometimes state the obvious. I mean, for example, and I'm not going to get into what's happened with Patrick and whatever, because I wish him well and I hope everything he does is.
Yeah, I want everyone to be happy and do well, at the end of the day.
But when he did the whole thing about I'm CG, but my company's not, I sat there and went, you didn't have to say that. I mean, people who have been around me for the get-go know that I don't own this book technically. I hire the license from the Chaplins. This is my product. It will always be my product, but I can't say I own it because it's not. He is not mine. He is owned by the world. It's a thing. So for me, it was like, oh my, why did you have to say that? Like I've been existing here really happily with everybody knowing that my product's not, but I am very much am, and my book, I mean, Chaplin's story is a story of cancel culture. It belongs here. But ultimately, if the Chaplins wanted to take it off me tomorrow, they could do. They won't, because they love what I'm doing and they know all about what I'm doing, and they follow me on Twitter and they see what I do on Twitter, and it's all cool. But I do remember thinking, oh, you just said, like, why? And like I say, I don't wish him any bad feeling. He needs to do what he needs to do. But I do sometimes think, you can overshare on the internet, and sometimes you say things you don't need to say, and that's kind of the only thing I'll really say about it. Because like I said, I don't want to get involved in anything because my book's too important to me to get involved in stuff that doesn't have
Yeah,
anything
to
really
jeopardize
to do with me.
anything. Yeah, I was gonna say it's too important to jeopardize anything. You know.
I've got some super backers. I've got some backers from all walks of this community that have supported
Right.
this book from get go. I'm so proud to come from the chat. I'm really proud that I listened to these people and I said, this idea I've had for a long time, this is the place
Right.
for me to actually bring this book out. This is the place that, this is the place that I know it's going to get the love it deserves. And I will walk on that line the whole way through. I've never ever said I'm not CG. I never won't say I'm not it. I'll also never let anyone call me a bigot or those sorts of things, because at the end of the day, I'm not. And anyone that follows me closely knows that I'm not. And I'm so proud to come from the chat, have this story and go, you know what? I want to do it here. And the community has been so amazing. They have supported my projects. They've supported my live streams. They've supported everything I've wanted to do.
Yes.
And I've always said, whatever happens with me, I would always have anyone on my show, and the door is always open for everybody on my show. Like, the chances of me suddenly going as big as EVS or that,
but you never know. You never know, right?
It's like this small in a minute universe. But if I ever did, which, to be fair, I don't really have the time, bless his heart. He's amazing at what he does and all power to him. I would have anyone on, whether they've got 1 subscriber or 1 million subscribers. You're always welcome here, because we all start out somewhere.
Exactly.
And that's what I think is so important.
I'm not a creator, but I believe so much in what the community is doing, supporting one another, sharing out the different campaigns, the creative freedom aspect of it, just standing up to the bullies in the mainstream and saying, no, you're not going to silence us and make us go off, into the corner and essentially wither away. It does mean a lot to me. And I like going to the conventions and just, throwing on a big CG shirt, just kind of wearing it with pride and seeing how the people react and everything. But I think that Comicsgate is really important, and it is a shame that Patrick felt he had to separate and distance himself from it. I mean, he's got to do, I guess, whatever he feels he needs to do, but the waters are good over here. Good things can happen here.
So I just want to bring the Scotch Earther said, did you have to sign a morality clause for the rights to use Charlie Chaplin's lines? It was all included in my contract. The one thing I will tell you that is incredible about working with them is the speech to the great dictator has its own copyright, because it is so used. Most people have to actually get a separate copyright. They just went to me, oh, you're going to need that for the book too, aren't you? Yeah, that's fine. We'll just make an amendment on the bottom of the contract to make sure that you can have it in there.
Oh, wow.
Bear in mind, you too had to ask permission to use it. I got it for nothing. So I'm quite proud of that one. So they read book 2. They read the ending of book 2, and the person that was running the estate at the time, she's since retired, and it's someone else taken over, and he's just as equally great. She actually said, this brought a tear to my eye the way book 2's written.
Oh, wow.
So I'm quite, I've said this on streams before, and this is the big thing for me. When you've got his kids saying to you, just remember to make sure that your artist knows that my father's eyes are blue. My father's eyes are blue. Like a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, what? So yeah, it's quite. Jabba says they sound gay. Oh, they're not, but they all live in Switzerland and have lots of money. You do the math; they're quite bourgeois. Sorry, Mark, I know you don't like that.
Oh,
but, no! Oh no, they're all bourgeois. The communist is a bourgeois. Yeah. So yeah.
Wow, it's kind of crazy to think about that. How old are his kids now?
His daughter Geraldine, who's the oldest, I think she's in her 70s.
Oh wow.
I know that his his daughter Josephine died last year. She's the first one to die, actually. They're all no, first one to die. Well, she's the first one with Una, because he had 8 children with Una. He had 11
God
children
bless
in total.
her.
Yeah.
Baby making machine.
Yeah, I mean, their marriage was. I mean, he was 54 and she was 18 when they got married. It definitely raised a lot of eyebrows. But she was a really old 18-year-old. Like, I mean, in the way that everybody that knew her said she was always going to end up with someone older because she was just like a really old soul. And all these conversations about, oh, he really liked young girls and all this stuff. He didn't. I think he fell in love with the idea of this woman he was trying to create on screen, but he stayed with Una till the day he died. They were married for
it was just
years.
about, the chase, and he would have kept on trying to get, other women.
Yeah.
And
No, he never. There's not a single allegation of him with anybody else when he met Una. That was like it. He didn't have time for anyone else. He was too busy impregnating her with 8 children. I mean, like,
yeah. And
you know
she
what I mean?
seemed to really adore him. At least that's the impression that I walked away with from reading the book.
She did.
So-
I mean, there's the accounts all are that she was his everything, and she was everything to their children as well. And Geraldine is probably the most famous of his children because she went on and actually became quite an established actress. So she was in Dr. Zhivago, the original Dr. Zhivago. She was the lead actress in that. And then she's been in loads of other things. And most recently, she was actually played Wallis Simpson in The Crown. She was very, very good as Wallis Simpson in The Crown. And her daughter, Una Chaplin, is most famous for actually being in Game of Thrones. She was I can't remember her character's name now, but she was the wife that was stabbed multiple times in the stomach in the Red Wedding episode.
Oh my God, that's her.
Charlie
Oh wow,
granddaughter.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a claim to fame.
And the band Jefferson Airplane. I remember I was telling you about his brother Wheeler Dryden. Who was taken away from him and how they met up many years later. Wheeler Dryden's son, was it? I think it's Wheeler Dryden. So yeah, Wheeler Dryden's son was the bassist in Jefferson Airplane.
My God.
So
talent seems to run in the family for sure.
They are quite a talented family. I mean, I've got loads of them on my Facebook and stuff. I say that to people, they're like, oh, that's a bit of a humble brag. I'm not really. They're really normal people. They just all added me because they'll share my book and support the different projects. But they're all very one of his granddaughters is very much involved with Cirque du Soleil. She's a dancer. There's another one that's a painter. And they haven't got where they're getting because of his name. They are very talented. They are very talented people. I mean, Una's father was Eugene O'Neill. So you've definitely got a famous, there's a lot of art going on both sides.
Wow.
I
was going to say one of the things that kind of touched me is I did a review last year of Charlie's London. And so I was doing all the research that I could, and a couple things actually. It was quite interesting that he met Albert Einstein, and he was impressed to meet Albert Einstein, but Albert Einstein was so just, I think, impressed to meet him. And I forget what that quote was. Maybe you can help me out with that. I don't know, but he paid him the compliment and everything about talking about Chaplin's humor. It was just amazing that someone considered that brilliant had so much respect for Chaplin.
Yeah, he called him. I'm pretty sure the quote is of him about calling him basically a comic genius.
Yes,
and the fact that he actually said that, I think, made Chaplin Bay. That's it. Talisa Stark. That's who she played. If you look at Una Chaplin, the younger Una Chaplin, who's in Game of Thrones, and you look at pictures of Una and you look at pictures of Charlie, she's a Chaplin. Like, you can see she's got, even though her father's Spanish, there's something about their eyes and their cheekbones, you just know that they are. I'd love to see. I keep forgetting his name. The guy that's just played. Oh God, Willy Wonka in the new. Film.
And he's also in the Dune movies. Yeah.
Oh my
what's
God,
that
he
dude's
is
name?
like, if they remade the Robert Downey Jr. film, but they used my book, that'd be like heaven. If
Oh
they
my
used
God.
my book.
Yes.
That
Anyone with connections to Hollywood,
Yes.
make this happen now, please.
I'd love to. Timothy Chalamet, isn't it? Is it Timothy Chalamet that plays?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would love to see him play Charlie Chaplin. He's the cheekbones, the hair, everything. That guy could do it 100%.
That's my husband that's poking in.
Oh, is it?
It's actually my husband that's poking in. Bailey's my dog, so they're just watching me back there being silly. Here was the quote about Einstein. And this is what he said to Chaplin. What I admire most about your art is its universality. You do not say a word, and yet the world understands you.
Yeah.
So I think it's amazing. Like, how many people got a compliment from Einstein, you know?
I would have loved to have done another supplementary story with this book on on another friendship he had. But unfortunately, the one I really wanted to do, I couldn't secure the rights in time. And that was the friendship between him and Winston Churchill.
Oh, wow.
Because the Churchill estate, now they are really hard to get into. They are really hard to get, because Churchill, like Chaplin, has had so much thrown at him over the years. And I was lucky with at the end of the day, with the Chaplin estate, because they knew me, they'd worked with me, they knew that I was going to do something that, I'm kind of a bit of an unknown entity to the Churchill. So they're probably like, who is this strange girl from South London that wants to write this book about her grandfather? But they had a really interesting friendship. I mean, really interesting. The way that, I think Churchill went into their friendship pretty much believing that Chaplin wasn't very much because of his background, and how this man was a self-made intellect. And he actually, blew Churchill away with what he knew. They were having full-blown conversations about money and what Chaplin thought Churchill should be doing about the situation with Hitler, because even before The Great Dictator, Chaplin stood up about Hitler and was like, this man is no good. And he was totally against appeasement, like spoke out vehemently against appeasement. And it was really, and a lot of people in Hollywood weren't. A lot of people had the attitude, and England too, if you just give this little bit of land to him, maybe it will shut him up. And Chaplin was writing to Churchill saying, this can't happen, because Churchill, not yet prime minister, obviously it was,
Chamberlain before,
who was like, oh yeah, we'll just, we can give him a little bit. And everybody was thinking that Chaplin and Churchill were crazy for going, this man's dangerous, you can't, you can't let him. And they had a very interesting alliance. I mean, I've just finished reading this book that is insanely amazing. It's called Traitor King. The author's called Andrew Lowney. It's about Edward VIII. And essentially, Edward VIII was a full-blown Nazi. And I can say that. And I don't mean when people call us Nazis on Twitter.
Yeah, how they're just very flippant with it today.
No,
but
I mean full-blown Nazi. Like, he totally thought that Hitler had a good point. He called him Herr Hitler in private. And they're now believed that one of the major reasons why Churchill was dead against the marriage, which forced the Queen's father on the throne, which she had a real problem with Churchill about when she was young, and then when he had to be her prime minister, she had to relent and do the right thing, was because he knew that if he couldn't stop appeasement, the only way he was going to stop Hitler was to make sure someone was on the throne that wasn't in support of his ideas. And also the conniving and scheming that Edward did, even when he was no longer king. There were conversations he had supposedly with Nazi spies where he said, if you get rid of my brother on the throne, you can have me back on the throne, and I will be I will be a Nazi king figurehead, and I'll control the British Empire for you. And it was so like, he was an awful human being, and it's crazy to think that people like Churchill and Chaplin essentially stood on. Chaplin didn't really have much to do with the royal marriage, but Churchill did. Said, you've got to push this man to abdicate, because if he doesn't, this country's going to be doomed. And how he had that foresight, this book is just, I read it and I was like, this is mental.
And that's called The Traitor King.
Traitor King, yeah. And then but of course, everything in my life goes back to Chaplin, because this is about Edward and Wallis Simpson, and who then goes on and plays Wallis Simpson in The Crown? Charlie Chaplin's daughter. So
it's full circle for sure.
It just goes like this. So what do? I just live with it. So
it's like that. What is it? That 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon or something like that. How everything can connect back to Kevin Bacon. Well, now you have Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
And I know we could go on and on. I don't want to go on too late and everything. And you've been so generous with your time. I know it's butt ass early or late in the evening, early in the morning there over in the UK. So I really appreciate it. Working with the time differences and everything. And I definitely would like to figure out some sort of, regular show or something that we could do.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah,
I think that would be a lot of fun. So I don't know.
Talk about loads of stuff. There's loads of things we don't, like we've said before, we seem to share a lot of similar views and similar things we like. And I think it would just be nice for there to be another show around here of people doing, stuff that people can hang out and watch. And this is a nice time, because obviously Mark's finished RTF. We're not going to interrupt the great show that is The Ballers, because they're on later than we are. So it gives people who are hanging around something to watch in the meantime. Jabba, shut up.
Yeah.
Don't ask me about Ashley Cole. Ashley Cole left Arsenal to go to Chelsea. Shut up. I swear, Jabba, if you are a Chelsea fan, I will hunt you down. Like, don't worry.
You hear that, Jabba? You better stay in line. Oh my goodness. Yeah. This has been a great conversation, and you're such a lovely person to talk to. You're very intelligent, knowledgeable, funny. It's just I loved watching you when you were on with EVS and everything, and on the other streams. So it has been an honor and a pleasure to have you on my stream finally. So
no, it's very, very, I really enjoyed seeing the stream you did with him. And I've always said the same thing. I know there's been so much, like I said, there's been so much drama, but I will always be here and loyal to the people that have shown me so much support. And he gave my first book the eyes that I needed to be able to have the second one out. So I will always be thankful to him because of what he's done there. And he has opened the doors to me to meet some of the most amazing people that work on my book, who are friends with me. And, at the end of the day, even down to CG UK, because if I hadn't watched his streams, which brought me into all of this, I would have never met all that crazy lot.
Right.
And, and you talking about British humour, what's amazing is we all talk to each other like we hate each other. It's really funny. It's very, like, so if you was to dip your head in the CG UK DM room in the morning, we're all like, hey, turd face, how you doing? And it's like, I swear people would literally be like, these lot, are they having an argument? Like, no, this is how we talk to each other. Even in real life, we were talking to each other like that. Pete Gilman went to me, Jesus, you're short. And I went, thanks, Gilman. Thanks for that. So, yeah, it
good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. J Drama fan has to get some points in here. You're still not taking my place, Charlie's.
I don't know. What's the numbers? Is he?
I don't know. I have to. There's some wonky kind of new math going on, so I'll have to take a look at it and see. But yeah, we'll run the numbers. We'll see what the rankings are. We might have to have a runoff.
Enrique's comment: the Dungeoneers wouldn't survive in CGU. I just think there'd be a lot of people calling each other wankers, and that'd be the end. I think the conversation would have been over a lot quicker. Because there would have been a couple of us would have just gone, yeah, I'm bored now, and just left. Like, because I'll be
I
honest.
think the echo chamber just kind of got the most or the best of a lot of the people there, and I'm hoping once they've kind of had a chance to just be out of it, kind of breathe a little bit, maybe tempers will kind of subside on different sides, and maybe people can kind of have a understanding and come together. I know there's certain people that have just burned the bridge, blown it up, nuked it from orbit, and pissed on it. But there are other people that I hope maybe they could come back at some point.
Yeah, I'm very much in that opinion. I think that you should never fully shut a door, and if you do shut a door, make sure that you're shutting it for the right reasons. And I think that there are a lot of good people here, and there are a lot of people whose hearts are in the right place. Do you know what? I think that the easiest thing to say about CG, there are a lot of people whose hearts are in the right place, but their mouths and their fingers on the keyboard are not.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the good place to leave it, because I bet you any money that a lot of the people that get really leery on the internet, if you sat down with them face to face, they're so different, and but that's not for everybody, and it's not my place to say who are the keyboard warriors and who are the genuine villains. I'm just quite happy to be here, do my book, and talk to people like you and have fun, because that's
here. If Tucci was here, I'd have him bing right now. Bing.
Yeah, or have his duck stick out.
Yeah,
that did not sound good.
What? Have his duck stick out? Okay, somebody clip that. Oh my God, have Billy Tucci's duck stick out, everybody. Oh my God. All right.
So yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Good night, everyone. Tip your waiters.
Lucky enough, his good wife knows what I'm talking about, and it's not anything rude. I love you, Debbie. So
all right, and I love you all. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and please look at Charlie's book, the Charlie's London. You have a chance to get the first one. Let me bring that back up here real quick before we dash. And the first one was East Lane to the Limelight, and then you have the wonderful second follow-up here, From Walworth to Wartime. So highly recommend. And like I said, if you don't mind hanging out a little bit for a few minutes here, I know it's bedtime over there, but we'll have a chance to say goodbye. But all right, everyone, thank you so much. Don't forget to watch Ballers and all the wonderful weekend shows this evening. And I love you all, and I will see you again in the next live stream. Bye.
50 sets off for me. I've had enough. Get the hell out of my house. In Jesus' name, I pray.